Sal, there's been a tremendous amount going on in New York City with the NYPD and the Eric Adams criminal case. But, I've been getting a lot of messages from people since our last show. Everybody wants to know if you have a few shorties over in the Rockaways. Apparently, it's the thing to do.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I think you're referencing a town hall that Eric Adams was at last night. And the opening line of that town hall is he's referencing that he's gonna. I used to come here for a shorty. That's what he says.
I mean, is that the stupidest thing he could possibly say? It's like he's turning out hoes in these people's town.
You got to understand, and for context, for people who don't understand this, these are town halls where there's people that have, legitimate concerns. They're taxpayers. They're worried about public safety. They have issues with double parked cars. They have issues with the sanitation trucks not picking up their garbage. And he starts off with that one line. And
should we play this for people?
This happened last night, and I happened to, somebody actually said you have to watch this thing or whatever, his town halls, which his town halls, by the way, are very informative. And not that you learn anything that matters. It's that he always says something stupid or something that you could use against him. That's like, wait a minute, that's not right. That's not true what he just said. And this was another one of those moments where you really just like, Jason, a few weeks ago, he's referencing people as Negroes. Now he's calling people shorties. He's clearly, I don't think he's serious about running for re-election. And I think it's just a ploy because, how can you take this man serious talking like that, really?
Isn't it insulting to people? To women to call them shorties? It's like one notch above calling them hoes, really, isn't it? He's like using rap lingo at a town hall.
Yeah, it sounds like he wants to, his whole thing is being cool with low information people. That's who he attracts. And then what he wants is he wants people to be in this low information bubble. Then he controls the narratives, and it's all perception management. It's easy to do on low information people, but it won't be for the masses. It's just like you could fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. That's the gameplay of, the game plan of this guy is to do exactly what I said. But he's, the majority of New Yorkers now have, come on and figured out this guy. He's got a 20% approval rating. And when he does stupid things like he did just last night and saying that, it just proves that, I don't know where he gets his intelligence from. And I don't know if he thinks he has a future politically or whatever. But this is the kind of stuff that's like dirt being thrown on your coffin since there's nails in it already. They're just throwing the dirt on top of it right now. And he's doing it himself, Jason. I can't believe that he said that. I really, you're at a town hall. You're there to discuss important matters of your constituents, that you're still their mayor, and you start off with that line. And I know some people, again, there's low information people are going to say, oh, this is great. But you could see the overwhelming comments in this. And this was picked up by complex.com, and that's a huge cultural publication. And the comments from the people that have read that and repost, they're insane. And even those people that I guess these are some of the people he's trying to curry, I guess, maybe in some people that read that publication, those people are like, they're not on his side. They're saying this guy is crazy. You could read the comments. They think he's nuts that he even said that at a town hall as the mayor.
Yeah, you could say that with your friends at a bar, maybe, or you might even be able to get away with that on a podcast or something. But you're right; people are there to see Eric Adams. You also might be able to get away with it if New York City wasn't an incredible disaster and getting worse all the time. Let's just play this comment for people so that they can appreciate how absolutely stupid it is.
And it's not AI.
There's a real history for me. I had a shorty that lived out here. Used to come out come out taking that long A train ride, in
And
the cold.
This is almost even
love
worse,
is
Sal. The
blind,
next
man.
thing.
Taking that long A train. I did not have a car. And one or two times I didn't have a token. So yes, I did jump off with a turnstile. I'm not gonna, it's over. The statute of limitation is over.
The statue of limitations. We're going to erect a statue of limitations outside of City Hall. But wait, Sal, isn't that terrible? He's joking about the type of petty crime that law enforcement officers, as you were previously, know that when you stop somebody doing those petty crimes, they have a knife, they have a gun, they have a rap sheet. He's laughing about it. That's encouraging 14 and 15-year-old kids to jump turnstiles because it's all he's doing shtick here. It's like a stand-up act.
Yeah. And the problem is what he's saying. Actually, I believe it was someone, I guess one of the reports from the New York Times actually reposted and said, "Love is blind, statute of limitations." Jason, he has a live case right now that just last week we covered that there was a motion to dismiss that was denied because his accuser, she is suing him for sexual assault from the early 90s when he was a police sergeant in transit. And that case, who he tried to get dismissed because she's going through bankruptcy court, the people that are in charge of the bankruptcy said, no, we're happy because we'll just go through with the lawsuit and anything comes, we'll take whatever what we need, what this woman owes, and we don't see anything wrong with it because the lawsuit is an asset technically. So he must have been stunned, but now he's going to get deposed in that case. So when you see him making these stupid remarks and how he talks down to women, you tell me how this is going to play out in his deposition for that case alone.
Not well at all. But you bring up a good point, Sal. The criminal case hasn't been dismissed yet. I hear people on all kinds of news shows talking about it as if it's in the rear view mirror. But just yesterday or the day before, Judge Dale Ho ordered the partial unsealing of these classified documents. But I checked right before we came on, hasn't been unsealed yet. I'm not sure what they're waiting for.
I think there's 10 days for the government to appeal, and then after those 10 days, he will release it. If there's no appeal, so there won't be any more rulings. And listen, ultimately, unfortunately for some, this case, unless the government somehow turns around and says, no, we're going to proceed forward, it will unfortunately be dismissed at a certain point. The thing is, the judge could do what he's doing, and he's making this a spectacle, and not because we know that, I guess, there is a lot of lawfare, and a lot of the people involved in this are very questionable. But what I think he's doing, and we're going to put our feelings aside, is he's kind of stepping up for the process of the system, because 7 prosecutors, whether they're Republican or Democrat, no longer have a job. Their futures, their career might be over because they made a stand on something that they believed they had, in which we saw the evidence of it, and they mentioned in a memo, seemed like a pretty open and shut case to many people. So as a judge, he has a right to go, what we'll call this, go through the motions. And he could do this for, this is going to go on for a little bit. I could tell that this is not going to just go away. And basically it's because he's making a stand for the system. This will be a case that will be referenced in law school for years and decades to come. This is how you don't file a motion to dismiss. This is exactly this is not how you do it. You're supposed to say, in fairness of the court and fairness of justice, we are dismissing this case in light or in lieu of, but they didn't do that. They made this political, which is ridiculous because this case was never political, and they know it. And now you're right. People have the right to see what kind of evidence was here. Since the government, the DOJ, wants to release text messages between prosecutors that was nothing of substance to the case, well, let's see what documents the government had that said that they had on Eric Adams to begin with. And if any of those things lead to anything, hey, you can blame yourselves because that judge has the right to unseal this stuff now.
It's interesting, Sal. I think I might differ slightly from your position on this, because I'm convinced that Dale Ho is embedded in the lawfare. This is a lawfare vector that is pointed right at Donald Trump. I think we agree on that. Mm-hmm. And what I see happening is this is just Dale Ho stretching it out. You know, when we have a lawfare case like this, and I think you and I also agree, there are a lot of questions about Email Bove. He hasn't been, with Donald Trump for more than maybe 2 years or something like that. Used to be in the Southern District of New York as a prosecutor, which, people can form their own opinions about that. But I really think that both sides of this caption are working against Trump, and that Dale Ho, let's just go back to his order for a second, Sal, because what he's responding to here is, back when this first started, Emil Bove filed a motion to file this evidence under seal. And before I proceed, I should remind our viewers, I'm not an attorney. Sal is not an attorney. Nothing we're saying here is legal advice. We aren't practicing law. We are two guys looking at a document, sharing our opinions with each other, and you don't do anything based on what we say other than sponsoring this show or visiting salgreco.com and supporting the Sal Greco Show. We're just talking about anecdotal opinions based on the evidence. But what I see here, Sal, is the judge is saying, okay, we're going to partially grant your motion to file this stuff under seal. Exhibits A through H will be filed under seal in unredacted form, and only the court and the relevant parties will be able to see that. Versions on the public docket shall be filed with redactions limited to phone numbers and email addresses. So that says to me that we're going to see the content of these documents. We won't be able to call or email the people, but that's not the purpose, obviously. We want to understand what's going on in this case. What do you think about all this?
That would be pretty damaging to Eric Adams if calling people Negroes and shorties isn't enough. But now you're going to see names of people that he knows and that he was in contact with. And, of course, this involves foreign nationals or whatever with Turkey, as we come to know. So you might see some names on there. And, the problem here is, Jason, I don't know if any of these people are in Trump's orbit, we'll say. Whoever he was dealing with Turkey, or so, even if the guy just, the real estate developers, who knows? But there is a reason, and there was another article besides this one. This is pretty bad because Mohammed Bahi has no life left. He pled guilty that he was put up to going to the Turkish guy, Erkan, or whatever his name is, Erkan, and tell him the FBI. Eric Adams told me, don't worry about the FBI. They can't find the cash. So, that sounds like a thug operating like a thug and not a mayor or someone running for office or being in office at that time. So what are we doing here? Whatever, because this has the potential. There's another article that came out this week from the city, and it revolves around the case in the Eastern District. They are clearly still looking at Winnie Greco, and they're still looking at that whole Asian, the hotel owned by that Asian straw donor, what do you think this leads to? You think these people were doing this for themselves? No, clearly they were doing it for somebody who was running for office. And this whole thing leads to Eric Adams. So this goes back to, okay, you're looking to do what's right by the law and the justice, right? So there's no way you're going to say, we'll charge everyone or skim around everyone except Eric. We're just going to charge everyone and leave him alone. You heard about last week on my show, I had Eric Sanders on, the attorney for Quatisha Epps. We have the Epps case, which they referenced the mayor's office. Once again, we know the FBI is involved there also. So what's going on? Are we going after Eric Adams, or are we leaving him alone and saying we're just going to charge? So that's another issue. And then a big article over the weekend came out, and it said that I guess the naming rights to Woolman Rink and the golf course over there in the Bronx that used to be Trump, it was under the Trump name, those rights are now up for grabs. And conveniently, just a few months ago, a few weeks ago, was Eric Trump, who went on the Sid Rosenberg show, Sid and Friends in the Morning on 77 WABC Radio, and he said that Eric Adams has been really good to my family, and he referenced how the previous mayor wasn't. And now all of a sudden there's bids for the naming rights to the Woolman Rink, and they are very much so lobbying the Eric Adams administration to get their name back on there. And it looks dirty because you're also charging him in this case and trying to take it away. So what are you doing? Because if you're using him as, oh, we have this court case against you and we're going to hang it over your head unless you give us the naming rights to the Woolman Rink and the Bronx Golf Course again, then how much more quid pro quo can you get? Which would be completely unethical. So there's two ways of looking at it. There's the lawfare angle, and then there's this other angle that just magically popped up. And I believe the Trump organization spoke to the former deputy mayor, one of the four that resigned. So if you need to subpoena people and speak to people, I'm sure she could tell you who she was dealing with, because there was another company that put $140 million like gift to try to put their name on there. And all of that was wiped away because now the Trump organization is. So that stinks. And Jason, like I said, we're all Trump. Look, I voted for Trump. I support the guy with his policies. I like what he does, but I'm not a sycophant. And if I see something I don't like, or I see something that looks corrupt or bad, you're going to call it out. This Eric Adams association has never been good. Nothing good comes out of Eric Adams. Why Trump wants to associate with this guy, even if you want your name on the golf course and the Woolman Rink, you could have had that with the next mayor. To hang this over his head and think this is going to be a New Jersey, Atlantic City casino tactic that he used in the 80s and 90s, it's wrong, because you're the president now. So, and again, Emil Bove and Boris Epstein and all these characters that you keep hearing about have been lingering in the background with this. So again, it's a question of, is there lawfare, or is this simply he wants the name to his rink back, and he's about to basically say, well, the hell with the victims and everything that happened in that case. I just want my name back on the rink and the golf course. Because he's done some boneheaded stuff, Jason, in the past. But it begs that question.
It does. And so here's the thing, Sal. It's so interesting because you and I agree, yet, see, this is what happens with lawfare. Whenever I talk to a lawyer or someone with a background in law enforcement, you guys have a certain way of approaching stuff. You understand the evidence that is required to actually make something happen. Whereas a lot of other people just sort of like see something that appeals to them or their opinion about what's going on, and they say, boom, there's proof. They haven't had the kind of test of that scrutiny that you have had trying to arrest somebody or appearing in court to try to present evidence or whatever it is. So you have a different approach. I appreciate that approach very much. I'm not trying to diminish it, but I think I also have some insight that professional lawyers and law enforcement professionals don't have. And actually all of your training works against it. And that is why lawfare is so difficult to explain. It is designed to be hidden right in front of your eyes. So you said earlier something about Turkey and is this connected to Donald Trump? So this is an article from the New York Times from 2016 telling us about how Donald Trump settled a real estate lawsuit and a criminal case was closed. Now, this is a lawsuit having to do with condominiums in the Trump Soho Hotel, a real estate developer named Bayrock, which Felix Sater is involved in. They came up with this concept where, because of the zoning down in Soho, this place, you couldn't put an apartment building there, but they wanted to build luxury condos in this neighborhood. And the idea was the owners, this was such a stupid idea, I can't believe anybody went for it, but the owners couldn't live there for more than 120 days per year. And for the rest of the time, it was going to be rented out like a timeshare kind of a thing. And that failed. So they just turned it into a hotel, but there was a lawsuit from the condo buyers, and Trump was deposed. There was also a whole thing wrapped up in this where there was a threat that there was going to be criminal prosecution. And I know this all sounds very bad, but I've been following this guy, Felix Sater, for many years. We know he had that secret agreement signed with Andrew Weissman in 1998. We know separately from a deposition where attorney Jared Beck deposed Donald Trump. In this very lawsuit, under oath, Trump said that Sater first began contacting the Trump organization in about 2000. So he's a made man under Clinton in 1998. Trump's first attempt to run for president was in 1987, and he's constantly surrounded by commentary from Oprah and other people asking him if he'll run for president. And I believe the Clintons embedded Felix Sater in the Trump organization to spy on Trump. And in this screwy deal, Sater is all over it. Bayrock is all over it. And another guy who's involved here in the Bayrock thing is this guy, Mr. Arif. So when news spread from Turkey that Mr. Arif had been aboard a luxury yacht raided by the police who were investigating a suspected prostitution ring catering to wealthy businessmen, he was charged, but later he was acquitted. So what's going on here is they had this company Bayrock, which Trump had somebody do some vetting on, but they didn't vet these specific individual employees. And so we've got these sort of hidden criminals embedded within this thing. I don't understand why he would have continued to interact with Felix Sater. And remember, Felix Sater is childhood friends with Michael Cohen, but this guy Arif is from Turkey, and there was money going into Bayrock from Turkey and Kazakhstan. So something does appear to be going on. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's the common theme also in New York City, because the real estate racket, that lobby, is what basically runs New York City. And at this time, this is prior to Trump even running for office, this lawsuit, that would be that President Trump or Donald Trump at that time would be one of the main, people you would orbit around in New York City for real estate. So it's no secret that he would be in this little circle dealing with all these cast of characters. But the racket we're talking about with these other countries, they've always been around whoever the mayor is, because they look to influence decisions by the mayor or somewhat through a lobbyist to try to get their deals and wherever it is they're trying to get out of the mayor's office. So the problem with the Turkish thing is I don't know how long-standing, and who knows Eric Adams and his cronies there. But with Trump, again, are there connections from these Turkish people or Asian people or Kazakhstani people? Because they're all over Eric Adams. And also, we learned through this, the nightclub extortion racket, that when Marlon Bethel did this investigation himself, where he looked into the properties, they were owned or they were bought out by a Russian real estate developer, or Turkish, which there was a whole article about. And two of the properties that were surrounding the nightclub were bought by him. And then they bought the actual property.
Right. Yeah, I remember
the
him saying
nightclub,
that.
which is the Brooklyn guy who said that the brother, Caban's twin brother, came over there to extort him, and the police.
Right.
So Marlon Bethel's his theory on this, and remember, he was a detective and he was an intel. The theory on this is that the NYPD is almost like the arm for this real estate racket, where they'll go, and if they specifically target a place, they will go there and do this kind of like strong arm a guy until they're no longer around. And when they leave, then this property could be bought out by one of these bigwigs. But again, and these people float around in the Eric Adams orbit, who he is so embedded in the New York City Police Department. This was more prominent in these 4 years under Eric Adams than they have in all the other years combined, because of Eric being directly involved in the day-to-day operations of the police department, because he's truly a frustrated police commissioner more than a mayor. That's what he really is. And this whole real estate thing ties in back to the nightclub extortion thing. And you're hearing about the people that donated to Eric and who he's associating with. It all begins to make sense. And the only thing I think of here is anybody, and this is something that someone running for office, or, in a year and a half, when it comes time for the midterms, could try to dig up And if there's any associations with Trump, because trust me, this one issue with Eric Adams, I don't know why he wants to save this guy or whatever it is that he's doing. This can cost them the midterms. And eventually, if they lose the House, they will try to impeach him. And this time, there are shady connections to these people that if you squeeze an orange just enough, you'll probably get enough juice to fulfill your quench of your thirst, So, again, this is a dangerous road. I don't know why he would go down this road with this man. I don't.
Wow.
There's no connections to them. I have no idea why he did that.
Sal, 80,000 additional views on this tweet just in the time that we've been broadcasting. If people aren't yet following Sal on X, he's there at the Sal Greco, and you can also get to him on YouTube, and you can see him on The Finest Unfiltered. Sal is all over the place. Sal, you also had an awesome interview. Forgive me, I forgot the guy's name, Utretsky or something like that, about the
Eric
CRT. Umansky.
Eric Umansky's he's a editor, I believe, at the ProPublica. Or he could be just a journalist there, but he's an esteemed journalist in New York City. He usually writes for either ProPublica and the New York Times at the same time. But when he does write something, it's a big investigation he does. He makes sure he dots all his I's, crosses all his T's, and then he writes a piece like this, which he did write, which is about the secretive CRT unit. And basically, he exposes a lot of what myself, Eric Dim, John McCarry, Marlon Bethel have been stating on The Finest Unfiltered. But he really comes up with a lot of stuff that the public didn't know. And I had him on today on the Sal Greco show, which you could see on the Finest Unfiltered YouTube channel, or it's also on my X. It was live streamed there, so it's on there. And you can watch what he says. He talks a lot about this article. He talks a lot about Kaz Daughtry and John Schell and how they were intricately involved in these decisions, and how is a whole program behind this with the NYPD, like this propaganda stuff. And we touched up on this last time because, they have a propagandist amongst them that literally parrots whatever they tell them to do or whatever it is. They all have the same talking point. So, again, control the narrative by perception management, which is John Schell says this all the time. He wants to control the narrative. So it's all about controlling narratives, perception management. Same thing with CRT. We found out they had different body cameras at a certain point, and it's almost like a vanity project because it's technically off the books, because what Eric was saying on my show is that the camera were bought or they were referred to from Kaz Daughtry telling that company, we need, he personally called this company Axon and wanted I think it's Axon 4 body camera for a specific set of officers, predominantly his little group in this CRT, which is the guys with the khaki pants. And now look, not all these guys are bad. Some of them, they're scattered. It's the particular group and the guys we're focused on. Kaz Daughtry and John Schell's guys, which were called Citywide CRT, which had a direct live feed to Eric Adams himself, which is a problem because under the federal monitor, the Risk Management Bureau in the NYPD, which was a chief by the name of Matthew Pontillo, who was told to leave the job or go get demoted back to the rank of captain by the then police commissioner, Eddie Caban. This camera, which is a state-of-the-art thing, has a live feed, but the crux of this was that Kaz Daughtry called this company and ordered these things, and we don't know how many they were, and they were only used for a short time because Risk Management Bureau told them you can't do this, but they were used and they were live streamed to Eric Adams, who also, when they were involved in little incidents that were very much, you'd say, okay, this is really playing it close to the chest. We shouldn't be doing this. He revealed to me that Kaz Daughtry would call the mayor, and the mayor would say, well, is this the lawyer's opinion or fact? And then we know, Jason, that Eric Adams says that he follows the law and he listens to what Corporation Counsel tells him, the lawyers. But then we also see that he also tells them to sue the Trump administration for the $80 million he wants for the migrant shelters that he didn't get in the last month. So in one instance, Eric says, I follow the law, I listen to the laws. In another instance, he's telling them what to do, which the reality is he can always tell them what to do. So this article shows the conflict in these people. It's just a bunch of hypocrisy, a lot of corruption, and really city council's not doing their job because they just had a budget committee hearing and they weren't even asking Jessica Tisch anything that would either damage her or get a hard answer from her, because her daddy pays all the bills for all the politicians. He donates to everyone. So we can't hurt the daughter because you'll hurt the billionaire class. So that's what's really going on. It's one giant hypocritical circle, Jason, and unfortunately, taxpayers are always on the hook.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, Sal, you guys, Eric Umansky and you this morning, a lot of things came up in your conversation that maybe I didn't get out of the article or weren't in the article, because it's good to talk to the author. I'm really glad that you sought him out and did that interview, and great job, by the way, because he's giving us all kinds of insights into, he said he spent over a year investigating this thing and that people told him that it was off the books and it did things that were, they did it that way so they could do things that were against the rules and whatever. And see, when I think about that in the context of, we saw that picture of our friend the Muppet, Oren Levi, in the office there with Eric Adams. We've seen him wearing what might be the NYPD color of the day. This guy has unbelievable access to NYPD that you would not expect an idiot civilian to have. And I just wonder if he's not part of these unofficial, unauthorized units that Eric Adams seems to put together. And the other thing that stuck in my mind listening to your interview with Eric Umansky was that, we've also been seeing not the community response team, but the community affairs unit, which also has its own unique uniform, which I noticed the other day, or maybe last week. You were on a panel with John McCarry maybe it was Eric Dim and John that were having this conversation, but Eric brought up the point, and I meant to ask him about this. He didn't like it. One of the things he didn't like about CRT was the fact that they were differentiated from other uniformed officers, creating this sense of a hierarchy. I'm presuming now he didn't like the hierarchy or that these guys were special or something, but I'm just keying into that because here we have another police unit in a different uniform that is doing things that seem to be, this is a person who has hung out with Mr. Muppet, Oren Levi. She always seems to be around where he is. They all seem to wear royal blue. I see a lot of weird things happening, Sal.
Yeah, again, we always reference Oren Levi, a.k.a. the bootlicker, the villainous Muppet that he is, that is kind of like a tag-along for the New York. And he's another guy who, let's go back to the guy's history again. I always reference this. He was an Antifa guy, a Black Lives Matter guy, anti-police guy, anti-Eric Adams, anti-President Trump. Then he was pro-freedom movement. Then he was pro-Eric Adams, pro-police, pro-Donald Trump. It's like the guy is just reinventing himself in whichever way the wind blows. Oh, and now he's pro-Israel, too. That's another thing he runs around.
Well, he is Israeli, though. He's always been pro-Israel.
No, but now he goes into the whole Hamas thing. He didn't do this 2 years ago. Now it's big. It's very prevalent with him. And then the final thing is he was against illegal immigration, and now he wants it out. He first he was for them, and now he's against them. So he's all over the board, and whatever actually helps him put money in his coffers. I don't know if anyone's realized that, because he's always begging for money for his videos, and I'm going to tell you other things that we found out with him. It's been alleged to me, and this is from people that are right there with him in the street, the people that he's ripped off with videos, that he chased Hispanics around and then claims that they're Trendiaragua. So he does things for clickbait as well. So the other thing is that he seems to always hang around police officers, and he hangs around John Schell, Kaz Daughtry, and at the time, Jeffrey Madry. So I don't know if he works for them, saying this man has a contract. What's odd about him is he has 2 lawsuits at the NYPD. One, that has been, it's so, you have to read it. It's so egregious that it's like 14 pages of claims and like one of facts, if there are any. Okay. And in this lawsuit that he's suing the NYPD, he was in a car accident and this guy mistreated him. 2 years almost later, it's almost 2 years now that he filed this thing. It's in May of this year, it's 2 years. There hasn't been one motion to dismiss from the New York City Police Department. Now, Jason, John McCarry filed a lawsuit against the NYPD just, I think, 2 or 3 months ago in the city, and they already filed a motion to dismiss immediately. So how is it that every case they always... It's so where is that motion to dismiss with Orrin Levy? What makes this Muppet more special than anyone else other than there has to be something? There's something there that nobody wants to dig on this guy, and he may not be as important as we make him on the show, but he's always out there defending the same cast of characters, John Shell, Kaz Dordry. He acts like it's his own like family, and he's out there posting positive things about them. With just a few years ago, he wanted all these people. He hated cops. He was all about Black Lives Matter, Antifa. Now he's out saying it's all anarchy, it's no good, and all this stuff. So he is a character that's one of many, but one of the more prominent ones. And you really need to take a look at why the police department seems to be treating his case different than other cases. There's no motion to dismiss on his case that I saw in regards to his lawsuit of he had some kind of car accident or something. So he was hit and or arrested for something, and it was a false arrest.
CBD, didn't he have CBD?
Oh, that's the first one. That's the other one with his brother. There's one with the brother, and then there's one single with him. So you got to check out the second one.
He's doing this to funnel money to some lawyer. Like whenever there's something weird like that going on that doesn't make any sense, it's lawfare. Because
he doesn't make, to me, I don't know what his connection is, because and when you talk to him, he seems a little normal until he starts to talk. He gets all animated, I guess, with this NYPD stuff because he wants to be a part of that structure. So, and there's other people that have found evidence that he works for the deputy. I guess it's the deputy mayor office of public relations, like a media company.
Yeah.
So the media company for the city, for the mayor. And they're saying, all the journalists saying he works for them. And he has his own little press pass that he gets to go in to those press conferences. But if you try, Jason, you'll get escorted out, even though you count as media too. Why can't you
No, they won't give me, they will not give me a press pass. So this was taken over. It used to be the NYPD who also wouldn't give me a press pass. But now it's handled by the mayor's office. And I mean, this press pass should be totally illegal. It would be maybe reasonable for them to say, hey, we're going to have a limited area for a particular event tomorrow. And so people first come, first serve will be allowed in. But the fact that you need to show a pass to exercise the First Amendment.
But how do you get that? Why can't you have that, but he gets it? What makes him more special? What makes him special? And you both do the same thing.
They control the access to it. You have to fill out this whole thing and tell them what you've covered, and I send it in, and they send it back, and whatever I write, no matter what I cover, January 6th, the Dershowitz at the courthouse, riots with Black Lives Matter, they just say, no, you can't have a press pass. So why do they get to decide? We don't like your style of journalism. We don't like the fact that you haven't been working long enough to work for the New York Times or the New York Post. Why do they get to decide who gets to exercise the First Amendment? Press passes should be illegal. Granting specific passes to specific events due to limited capacity is reasonable, but it should be anybody who shows up and wants to be in the press area. You're going to get kicked out if you do something other than covering the event as a member of the press, but there should not be a press pass.
But I think what you just said was key. You said they want to control, again, remember what you keep hearing, controlling the narrative, perception management. He is perfect because you don't have to tell him much. He just wants to hang around the cool people. In his book would be the power structure. So whatever you want, boss, I'll do. And that's what he does. You look at his feed, it's the same. And look, every now and then, look, like I always say, a broken clock is right twice a day. He might actually have a legit video of something that's legit. But most of the time, if you've looked, especially at his history, It's like a propaganda channel for the NYPD and Eric Adams. And you're saying and now he's changed it to President Trump. So I don't know, like, where this guy gets his intelligence from, or what the hell his purpose is doing this, but he is one of many. And of course, you brought up crackhead Barney, who apparently hangs out with him, which is a whole nother story. And Jason, there's other people in the past, because he in his the Scootercast that he used to work with her. So
yeah,
she's around. You have Talia Jane, who's an infamous leftist, and I guess Talia Jane and Orrin don't see eye to eye, or he's constantly harassing her online. So there might be mental issues.
They're both Israeli, and I think they have some sort of rivalry to do with that. What's interesting, Sal, is do you remember when they had the suddenly all the Palestinians kind of like penetrated Trump Tower and had a sit-in over there? So first of all, our buddy Joel Matola was there, and the sergeant was there. And we saw that video clip where he's kind of whispering somebody's ear. He goes down the escalator. There's another guy wearing blue who's a journalist who sort of acknowledges Joel. Anyway, the point is, how is Olya Scootercaster always getting these scoops faster than anybody else? It just seems like, NBC News, the New York Times, they have photographers all over the city, and she gets it before they do. How can she do that without an inside line with the cops?
She might have somebody giving her a tip. At the same time, you had Orrin Levy tag along with actual raids of the smoke shops and all that, which was technically committing a burglary, because you don't have the right to go do that stuff. And he confiscated stuff that's all under investigation now. And there's $100,000 that was in Miranda, the sheriff's safe. And we already know that he hangs around a lot of shady figures in the Bronx and has a whole connection with that. And then there's Orrin Levy with an exclusive tagging along with them. He also would beat people to many other things that nobody had. Now, this is kind of slowed down with the new radios and all that they have. But for a long time, he was almost acting as if he was the embedded propaganda wing of John Shell and Kaz Laundrie.
He is. I'm convinced that they are. So they've got journalists who they like, and the deal is, hey, Orrin Levi, hey, Olya Scootercaster, we're going to give you guys access to our various staged events, like we're going to allow Palestinians to enter, Hamas supporters to enter and demonstrate in a private business, Trump Tower Cafe or whatever, Trump Cafe. And they're just going to occupy it, and we're going to make sure it gets on the news, because the New York Post is going to pick this up, and Olya Scootercaster's video is going to go all over the place. Your video is on fire, Sal. Over 100,000 views even just while we're online here. So I think this is well on its way to 1 million today. But the point is, I am convinced that these people, it's not just that somebody's giving them a tip. They're involved in pushing these official narratives to make sure that the message gets into the paper, that there was a Palestinian sit-in at Trump Tower. They have a certain specific type of pressure that they want to put on Donald Trump, and a certain media narrative. See, and people say, oh, well, Orrin Levi, Jason, you said he told you he's Mossad, and if he's from Israel.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Why is he helping with these protests? It's because, Sal, my opinion is that the whole Israel-Palestine conflict, even going back to the Nazism versus Judaism conflict, I think this was created by some other entity to be a polarizing false dichotomy, that when they want to, they can just dig into it and polarize the sides and get everybody angry. So nobody's paying attention to all the crimes that Eric Adams is doing, or the Bidens are doing, or whoever's trying to destroy Ukraine and have a war with Russia. We're all just busy fighting about, free Palestine, leave Israel alone, whatever side of that argument you're on. They want to polarize both sides and make everybody go crazy. And that is what Orrin Levi and this whole allowing protests, that they could shut down, they could tell everybody, Sal, if I just went now with 50 of my friends over to a business and started screaming and yelling, wouldn't the cops come over and say this is an unlawful assembly and kick us out? Why are they giving a permit to allow everybody to assemble outside the Tesla dealership, to allow crackhead Barney to disturb the peace and be disorderly in her conduct? Why are they allowing that?
When it comes to the permits, you're allowed to you ask for a permit, you ask for permission, you tell the city or an NYPD what you're going to do. And other than if this is an unlawful assembly that you know of, or there's going to be, they're going to be Trendaragua there, is this a white supremacist rally? Other than that, they really can't tell you can't have one. But they can show up, and if they see you doing something that's outrageous, like spray painting, or because this is where they get in trouble, because you're walking a tightrope with what you can and can't do, because you don't want to trample. You're not going to trample on people's rights, and we don't want to.
But wait a minute, let me stop you there, because you're talking about First Amendment. Obviously, people have the right to protest, but in other words, when protest is one thing, but when you occupy this space and deliberately make it impossible for the business to conduct business, what stops them from doing that every day and putting the thing out of business? It stops being First Amendment activity, and I don't think it's upholding the law to grant a permit to just protest anywhere at all that you want. My question really, and I recognize that you might have the answer, might not have the answer to this, the NYPD might not have the answer to this, but I do not agree that it's within the context of the First Amendment to go to the business and protest in front of it such that customers can't access the business. In my opinion, the cops should have told them, you need to take this 4 blocks to the east, and you need to protest in the park. You can protest at City Hall. I mean, that's the thing. It's one thing to protest City Hall. It's one thing to protest One Police Plaza. You can't go to people's houses and private businesses and exercise the First Amendment by obstructing. Same thing on the campus of Columbia. First Amendment is start a podcast, hold a lecture, not close down buildings and intimidate students and make people fearful to be on campus. That's thuggism, that's terrorism.
True. And you can't block the access to a business. That is, you can, if they don't leave, or then you can move in and arrest them. So if they were doing that, I don't know why they weren't.
Absolutely were. Nobody in their right mind would go to that Tesla dealership on the day that 200 people are standing outside there going absolutely crazy. In fact, one of the maniacs, he approached me being calm, and he looked like an accountant or a lawyer or some advertising douchebag or something. And we were having a calm conversation. And when I confronted him with questions that he couldn't answer, he just immediately was 0 to irate in 1 second, grabbed my camera, which is an expensive iPhone. It would be larceny if he broke it or took it. And it's on video. And I showed it to Matola. I said, arrest this guy. And first he said, well, do you have it on video? Show me the video. And I think he said that because he presumed it would force me to stop recording to show it to him. But then I said, oh yeah, wait, let me show it to you on my other phone. It's on YouTube. And then I showed it to him. And then he had another excuse why he wasn't going to arrest the guy. So the guy grabs my property, threatens and intimidates me, physically touches me. It's assault if they wanted to arrest him. The police were allowing that, if not causing it to happen.
Yeah. And they're going to say it's almost, so it's like a domino effect. The laws, there's discovery, bail reform, all this stuff is used against them, saying if they arrest this guy, they're going to probably decline to prosecute. That's what it's not your fault per se or their fault. It's kind of what they already know. But really, then you fall into this catch-22 where the police department are not supposed to play lawyer. If there's a crime, they see it, you're supposed to do what you have to do there. So again, if you're a victim of a crime or whatever, I don't see why they don't. Okay, you have this on video. What else?
Look at all the royal blue. Look at that. Look at that. Does this guy have his arm tucked in his jacket, or is he an amputee? I think he's got an arm in there. And he told me he had his his arm cut off. But here we've got our community response people. Here's some Japanese photographer wearing a blue hoodie, and I asked him what made him decide to wear that today, and he had nothing to say. Hey, I got to play you this. This is great. I want to get your professional police opinion of this conversation. Hang on a second here.
This is unbelievable. I'll tell you this. I watched this. Did you see Alex Jones actually over the weekend? And say what you want about him, InfoWars. He went to the Tesla deal in Austin, and it was I couldn't stop laughing. I can't believe that people would take all that time in their day to go outside and protest on the grass on a car dealership where they have no car that was being bought. They're not arguing over that or their car being serviced. So what are you standing out in the grass in the middle of the day on a Saturday for? I don't get it.
Hang on one quick second. Look at this guy on the left of the frame. Look at his jacket. Maybe it's normal, royal blue. But when I notice him, I just want you to hear this conversation, and I want you to evaluate his responses and tell me what you think.
Nice jacket.
Thank you very much.
What made you decide to wear that today?
I'm going to the Elon Musk protest, and it's just blue.
Convenient color?
Convenient. It's a funny thing. I didn't even think of it until this very moment. But yes, just a jacket I used to have. You've doing documentary stuff?
Absolutely. What's your take, officer? Former officer.
I saw him in the prior. You showed a little clip. He was standing out there too. I saw him right before.
But just his responses, Sal. Doesn't he seem to say, when I asked him what caused you to decide to wear that today, and he says it was. Let's listen to it again, because I found it very suspicious. He didn't say, well, it's warmer today than it has been, which it was, so I'm wearing a light jacket. That seems like a normal response to me. He tells me I'm going to the Elon Musk protest, so, and I just said convenient color, and then the Jedi mind trick works. He repeats convenient color. Then he says it's just an old jacket that I have, almost as if someone told him wear some blue item, and he is now pleased that he didn't have to buy anything because he had this old jacket. Listen to it again. I've prompted you now, but I want you to tell me what you think.
Why would he allow this to happen, if I'm correct? Otherwise, I'm totally wrong. What do people think? I mean, I'm not kidding. This is a preponderance of evidence that I've accumulated. Nice jacket.
Thank you very much.
What made you decide to wear that today?
I'm going to the Elon Musk protest, and it's just blue.
Convenient color?
Convenient. It's a funny thing. I didn't even think of it until this very moment. But yes,
you didn't even think of it.
It's just blue. Unless he's part of a protest group that they told him to wear blue.
I think they did. I think they did, because
he has the special color. That color jacket he has is the same color at Community Affairs it's not the blue that you see. That blue, it's a different color blue, and his jacket would blend in if he was walking down the street and you saw Community Affairs.
Look at how many people. These journalists in blue hoodies. And the Japanese guy, you see all the journalists. And then this other guy's wearing high-vis green, almost as if there's a blue team and a green team here, right?
Yeah, and that could be coordination, I wouldn't say with the police department, but amongst themselves, or this was pre-planned. Go out there, everyone who wears green is on this team, everyone who wears blue is on the other team. But right. I can't tell you. I don't know the guy's mental state, if this guy may be on drugs talking to you about jackets or whatever. But I find it odd that it is. You see blue guys wearing blue and guys wearing green that are all. Those are the people covering this.
Right. Then there's here's another hoodie. That's the Japanese guy. Then there was a really unusual encounter with a British guy. So that guy had a foreign accent, almost like Ukrainian or something. But there was a British guy, and I noticed him walking away from the scene. And here, I'll talk to this idiot.
Oh, here he is again, huh?
He's my best buddy.
He is. He's a character, this guy.
He's such a clown. See, so I spoke to this guy, and they just started walking away from me as I walked towards him. Does that look like an amputee or a guy hiding his arm?
I don't know. I can't tell him. I have
Hard
to
to
get
say.
closer. I have to actually beat it. I don't know. Maybe he's just holding his hand in there in his jacket.
What did this guy say about his jacket?
Nice hoodie.
Thank you.
Seems a little light for the weather today. It's going to be cold, isn't it?
Not too bad out.
Who told you to wear that? Nobody, huh? Not the NYPD Community Affairs? That would be ridiculous for them to do that, right?
To wear a Key West hoodie?
What do you think? Is he being honest? It's hard to say.
It could be he's just a scrummy kid that works for, whatever company he works for. There is a lot of people wearing blue. I don't know if it's a coincidence. I see a lot of hoodies. You are showing, but again, people could say, well, it's a coincidence. A lot of people
could be.
But I would tell you, if they are embedded in groups, right? So the people that are in part of one group or another group, they could tell them wear this so that we know and everyone in the group knows you're with us.
Right.
That's
so you don't
problem.
get beat up when stuff starts flying.
Or you could, if you're wearing blue, people usually would assume if you're walking down the street or in this, they would say, is he with the police? Because that's where what you're trying to say might be more of these people that were already embedded, right? They're wearing blue, so that's what you do think, that they are part of the. When something goes down and they run around, no one's going to do anything and tell, isn't he with them? But they're not. But that was an old Antifa would do that, I think, or whatever. Right. Black Lives Matter would do that. They embedded themselves in the crowd by wearing the same things and making you believe there's something that they're not. It's a common thing with protesters or anarchists, I like to say, rioters. But I don't think they didn't riot outside of Tesla because that would have not gone over well. This one in particular.
So there's our buddy, I think, from the beginning with the blue jacket. And I remember I was thinking, well, yeah, that's the guy. And so, all right, maybe it's a coincidence, but he's down to the blue shoelaces. So if there's any doubt if he's wearing the color of the day, right?
But why is he? So wait a minute. Why was he wearing a mask when he was riding? You were talking to him. And
obviously, he doesn't want people to recognize his face. Hey, how's that hat? Where's the British guy? I want you to see the British guy. There's a lot of Chinese NYPD officers who don't want to respond to questions at all. This guy's got the blue backpack.
There's another man.
Yeah, they wore masks because they don't want people like me to record them on video and start having libraries of videos where we can recognize like Matola from 4 years ago, and here he is again with the same people. Because if we really did that and went through these videos, we would eventually start to realize that certain people are associated with other people. There it is. So let's watch this. So this guy, he is over here taking pictures. And he just starts to walk away. And I'm just on the sidewalk, and he's kind of giving me the side eye. He's very interested in what's going on at Tesla, which is maybe normal. He's got a brand new looking polo hat, and he's just walking over there. Let's just watch this for a minute.
Oh, so you caught up to him?
Yes, watch.
People still in there buying Teslas. This guy's keeping his eyes on me.
I'm half a block away from this guy. He's obviously aware of me. It's a kind of a very...
Got to be careful of the signal over here all the way on the west side.
And what the hell is he doing going all the way over here? You're not going to get a taxi over here. His hotel is definitely not over here. I thought he was going to go into this parking lot. I was going to follow him to his car.
Maybe he's taking pictures of everyone who's there.
Let's watch what he says here. So I follow him across the street. First of all, this is very interesting. So he rushes to get across the street to try to beat the light.
Beat me through the light.
So I have to run. And he's running here to get through the second light. He's evading me, Sal.
He's running from you. He thinks you're gonna do something.
Watch. He's going to Diddle Island. Come on.
He's running. He ran away from you.
Yeah. And this is a public park. Why wouldn't he just presume that I'm also walking to the park?
Is he
He's
looking at his
nervous.
phone?
Because he's trying to
looking at his-
contact somebody.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do, roll up on him while he was on the phone.
Hi.
Hi.
Everything all right? You look startled.
Yeah, no, you were just right behind me.
I like your hat. I wanted to ask you about the hat.
It's Ralph Lauren.
It's very blue.
Are you recording me?
I am.
Why are you doing that?
Because you're in public and this is in England. What are you doing with the blue hat and what are you doing over here at the protest?
I wasn't at the protest.
Oh, no?
I was
He's a
taking some
full shit.
pictures of
This
it.
guy. Come on,
Have a
Sal.
nice day.
What do you think of that?
But he wasn't he taking video of everyone there?
Yes. So he's lying to me. He's running over here to this thing.
I would think he would just be honest. Hey, I was taking the video. What? Why would you? Who cares?
Because he's there doing something he shouldn't be doing. He's part of this, I presume, I don't know, I can't prove. This is my suspicion. He's a British douchebag who's part of one of these international nonprofit organizations that, you know how there's certain things that the United States can't do, and sometimes England gets people like Christopher Steele to do it and give it to the United States, and likewise, sometimes England can't do stuff, so the United States does it and gives it to them. I think that's that guy, and I think he's here in New York, and somebody said, okay, the color for tomorrow is blue, and he's a fancy British prick, so he goes over to Ralph Lauren and buys some $120 blue hat that's brand new on his head right there. That's what I think.
Interesting take. I'd have to reserve whatever I would think about unless I find any evidence to say this guy is a part of anything. Of course, the people that were there, though, and their color codes or whatever they're wearing, that again could be communication amongst groups of people that are there for whatever reason. But again, we keep mentioning our friend and those people like Orrin Levy and Crackhead Barney. They're more in line with what you want to look at and say they're in on whatever the skim is, you know? That's kind of they're in on the skim. We'll put it like that. So whatever's going on, they're in on it because they have unprecedented access that you and I will never have, especially me now. Maybe when I was a cop, but I would have said, why is this guy even lingering around? What?
Right.
There has to be something to it with him. I don't know. Him and Crackhead Barney. Just linger around and nobody seems to care.
Yep. Well, and they grant them the access and all of that sort of stuff. Well, Sal, it's always a very exciting show because we're not just talking about our opinions. We're discovering stuff like that. I love doing those kinds of shows. So I want to make sure that everybody knows how to get to you and all of your media. And even more importantly, people, if you have the income to do it. We're not trying to put anybody out, but please make sure you visit salgreco.com. Go on over to the support tab, tap on that support button and support Sal. He really is bringing some awesome information forward and interviewing really important people. His understanding of the detailed ways in which the NYPD works, or rather I should say doesn't work, really helps us get to answers that we otherwise wouldn't get. Sal, let everybody know the best ways to reach you and take us out.
Sure. So if you're on X, go to @thesalgreco. I actually have my show live stream there, and I'll put up posts from other shows, and you could check out the other shows on there as well. So you have one live feed on X, and then on the Finest Unfiltered YouTube channel right there, that's the last show was on the front there, Cowboy Up. That was on the right to the left. And if you go down this list, you'll see other shows that we have and other shows that I have done. And on the video, if you click the video button, you could watch previous episodes of the Sal Greco Show, where there's a lot of info that you've seen all of these are my episodes. These are a lot of pre-existing issues or pre-existing episodes that we mentioned. Plenty of stuff that's relevant today, and it's a lead up, basically like a blueprint to an indictment of many people in this administration, in particular the mayor. And of course, on the Sal Greco Show YouTube channel, I post some segments from other episodes and also the previous episodes that were before these episodes that were on from last year. You could watch those on there, and you could decide if what I give, which is a fact-based analysis over many things, many police department issues, some that are really questionable stuff and actions of the Eric Adams administration, but all of this is there. It's in detail. There's articles I would read. So that's kind of like the blueprint of everything. And now today, every Tuesdays and Thursday, 12:05 live Eastern, I'm on the Finest Unfiltered YouTube and on X live simultaneously, the Sal Greco Show. So next week, I'll be having another journalist on, and we'll be discussing even more corruption that was going on in the New York State Police Department. So that's my forte. One day I talk about corruption. One day I talk about the New York State Police Department. And next day I might have a comedian like Jason Scoop on. So you get a little bit of everything with me, and I always keep it real with everyone. So thanks for supporting me. Thanks for following me if you can. And also, thank you for watching this show and continue supporting Jason, he's become a good friend of mine. And even though, I can't agree with every little thing that we discussed, but I agree with the majority of it. And we do have the same kindness in our heart to say we care about the taxpayers, and we see the corruption is big and deep, and it must be rooted out, because what's going on and what's happened in the last few years in New York City in particular is disgusting, and it's a blueprint for what they want for this country. So we're out here exposing things and trying to bring you the truth. And in my show in particular, it's fact-based analysis. So guys, if you can, also don't forget to follow Jason and support Crowdsource the Truth, because like I said, before I was coming on the show, I used to watch a lot of the shows that Jason put out there, especially the Man on the Street. I like that when he goes out and talks and shows you what's going on. You would never have met Orrin Levy without that, actually. You would have exposed that from day one. You were out there when everyone else was like, who is this guy? And you're like, what? Mossad? What's he talking about? Jeez.
Yeah. Well, Sal, thank you for those kind words. I appreciate you, and we're doing great shows together. I really, really like the information that we're able to tease out together. So thanks, everybody, for watching and supporting. And Sal, have a great weekend. I will speak with you soon, and I'll see everybody later tonight. We're going to have a special episode with Lee Stranahan looking at the JFK files. Thanks for watching, everybody.